Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Ann Deeter Gallaher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go!
On behalf of the John L. Grove College of Business, we'd like to welcome you to our podcast this evening, Grit and Gravitas. We have an esteemed panel here presenting tonight, many of them some of our Shippensburg own. They include Ann Deeter Gallaher. She's the owner-CEO of the Deeter Gallaher Group, PR marketing firm. She's an SU graduate in English and Communications Journalism. What's interesting about all of our panel members tonight is they are quite accomplished professionally, but they also all give back to the community, and I think that should be noted. Ann sits on the Salvation Army Board and also on the College of Business Advisory Board. We have Annie Carnathan. She's also an SU graduate in radio and television communications. She's the president and CEO of Universal Media Group. She also volunteers with Bigger Brothers and Big Sisters and is part of the Whitaker Center Board. We have Jessica Whitmire, another SU graduate from the College of Business in Accounting. She is the SVP and Finance Controller for Members First Federal Credit Union. She volunteers with the Gamut Theater Group and the United Way. And finally, we have Lee Fortenberry, one of the faculty members here at the College of Business in Finance. He is the Managing Director of Financial Growth Partners. He's a certified financial planner, and he serves on the NIFA committee and has also received an award for the Huebner Personal Mentorship. So we thank all of our participants tonight. We're excited to have you here. I will turn the program over.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Watts. We appreciate that. And as Annie, my co-host, said, we're so thankful that each one of you are here. We were in these seats, me a little bit longer ago than anyone else on this panel, and then we'll go down the line of what descending order of when we were here at SHIP. A little backdrop on Grit and Gravitas. Annie and I, this is our 5th year, and actually I think this is the 108th episode we're recording, 108th. An episode came out today. We publish every other Tuesday, and the purpose of that Grit and Gravitas has been to shorten the learning curves of women, especially women in business, as you on-ramp from college to career transition or from high school to career, maybe technical school. But also, Annie and I have 4 sons between us. I have 3, she has 1, so we love men. And we feel that this advice is applicable as well to young men. We do a lot of stories on entrepreneurship. Our guests have founded charities. They are CEOs of business. And so we are so excited to partner with Members First on this episode, as well as thank you to the College of Business for sponsoring this episode. So Jessica Whitmire is going to give you some incredible advice about money. So we're just going to talk money here and be brutally honest about that. And Lee Fortenberry, one of the professors here, who's quite esteemed in the financial advisory world, he's going to teach us about money too, Annie. So,
and I think one of the most interesting things about money, when you think about it, what are you taught not to talk about when you're growing up? You're taught to not talk about money. Oh, we don't talk about money. Just like you speak when spoken to, you have to raise your hand and wait for that. So I think there's a dynamic around money that needs to be not necessarily torn down, but normalized. And now is the time for all of you to consider what that looks like in the future, because that is such a huge pillar of what you will take with you through the rest of your life. And it absolutely impacts every facet of your life.
I wish I had a book now for what I didn't know when I was your age sitting there. And some of Lee and I were talking on the phone last night, some of the financial decisions I made out of pure ignorance and not having a long game view of the world of finance, certainly not the world of business. But I want to start us off with a a little story. About 2 weeks ago, I was at a statewide event, and it was a group in our region, the Capital City region, and it was a listening tour. And the person in charge asked, "Tell me what a barrier to a future of prosperity would be." And so a bunch of different aged people stood up, so different generations were represented. But one young lady stood up and she said, "The barrier to my prosperity is my crushing student loan debt." And she had a good job, has a good job. She talked about the numbers that were involved there, and she said, "I honestly worry, will I ever be able to buy a home, and will I ever be able to start a family?" And I walked away from my generation and where I sat in here thinking, wow, like that's a challenge to believe that you're going to wait till you're 40 maybe to buy a home, and what the effects that has on your investments, when you start to save and how that might affect that. So you do have a handout here, and we're going to touch on some broad areas that we really hope our podcast delivers business vitamins. We hope that any number of these things will be takeaways for you to think about tonight and maybe make some decisions tomorrow that we hope will truly change your life and change your future to have a future of prosperity and be in control of these financial decisions. Many things, I didn't do at the right time and missed some of those windows. But let's start off, Jessica, with you. We're going to talk about knowing your student loans. And obviously that's like I said, it's a crushing issue for a lot of people. Now, you folks are probably better off at a state university, compared to the private universities, even choosing what career you have, and would that be commensurate with the amount you've invested in your education? So, Jessica, you want to share a little bit about some of your tips on that?
Sure, absolutely. So before you graduate, many of you will likely have student loans. And again, as Ann mentioned, the value from Shippensburg in the market is incredible, right? I went into public accounting after I graduated, and I was competing against other students from other universities that were, a lot more expensive, but we got the same degree, right? So we were making the same amount of money, and I had the value, right? And they were paying back these larger student loans that I was fortunate enough to not have as many of. So, that's, like Ann said, the great value there. But knowing how much you owe, most importantly, knowing who you have to pay and when is the key. And if you can set up automatic payments so you're not even thinking about it, so you don't miss those payments, that's really the key in knowing when they start, who you pay, and how much that is. So you can budget for that over time.
No, that's awesome. Lee, I know you teach personal finance, a personal finance course here. Do you touch on any of this with the students?
We do, one of the things that also talk about is the fact that you got to pay yourself first and save, because too many times we get drawn in the trap of paying down debt so aggressively that we don't put aside anything for emergencies or whatever, and then something happens. It can be something as simple as a little thing with the car where you hit something and you have a couple of tires, and the next thing you know, you're out $300-400, and you're never getting that debt down. And so having a disciplined approach to pay that debt and also pay yourself first so that we can get ahead of that, managing our cash flow well.
And I think your perspective right now matters in how you crawl, walk, and run. And I came out of Shippensburg. I had worked full-time since I was 15 and was fortunate enough. I had to pay my own way without debt. But my mom was so key to saving, just saving. And there wasn't a point that I missed it because I just saved it. And I was in a commission job my entire career and still am. So I bet on myself, but it's a fluctuating income. And so really, from the very beginning of my son's life, I say, you get $5 in this card. Is there anything you want or need that you don't have? if you put this 5 away and save it, I'll match that. Your dad will match that. And now all of a sudden, over his lifetime at 21, ready to graduate college, he has this little nest egg. He doesn't even know how much is there because he's never considered it. But it's significant, and to the point where whether it's a rainy day fund, whether it's a down payment on a house, whether he has to relocate, it's there for what he does now need, right? And so there's a big difference in how you look out for the long game, because we all want things right now. We all are impulsive. We all want, Starbucks. We all want to run out to eat, and it adds up and it erodes sort of that master plan. So think about that now and what you're willing to do right now for the long game.
And I think this, in my experience, it's so much better to start small. This isn't saying you're going to go out tomorrow and start. When people talk about, I'm going to have a 401k, and that's usually your company that you're going to work with. And ask all of those questions when you're in your job interview. What are the benefits, and does it include an employer's matching 401k? Because what you start saving on day one affects when you can retire, when you can buy, a car, a house, any of your big purchases there. But even starting now, so Jessica, how would they do that? I'm just saying, if you had $10 a month, $20 a month, pretend if you forewent the Starbucks, because now you have a gift card to use, so you don't have to use your cash, what would it take? And then if you do the math in your head, like, what does that mean 20 years from now? If you just never saw it and you had it come right out of your, checking account, Jessica, how would they do that?
Right. So we have products like a goal savings account where you can set certain goals and have those funds just automatically swept in to that account. And then when that materializes to a larger amount, you can get a money market fund that will pay a higher rate of interest. And the earlier you start putting those small incremental amounts in, it will continue to build over time. If you wait, that gain you will get, that future earnings will be lower, right? By a significant amount. That earlier start is the key, even if it's $5 or $10 a week or a month or what have you that you can do, will create that nest egg for the future, for those emergencies, for those, vacations in the future. All those things, those little amounts add up.
Right. Anybody here planning on being an entrepreneur? Oh, good. Several. Good. Several starting your business.
Fantastic.
So this conversation is really applicable to you, because when you graduate, and maybe you're going to go, be a professor or work at Members First before you start your entrepreneurial journey, you're going to need cash to start your business. And so especially for the women in the room, that generally comes, you're bootstrapping that. For the men, it's a little easier to access capital and credit. We're trying to change that dynamic here. But getting your financial house in order to be able to start your business, I had no idea ever when I was at SHIP that I would start a business. It wasn't even, Annie and I both graduated from comms journalism, professional studies. So I did not start my business till I was 40. So I'm going to the bank and I'm asking for a line of credit, a professional line of credit. And they give me this whole big list that I was like, whoa, everything but your firstborn they want. Your husband or your spouse sits in on that conversation too. And I was wholly unprepared for what would be on that sheet. So again, think when you're starting your business, you're still going to do what Leah's saying. You're still, and Jessica, you're going to save $10, $20, whatever. Get in that habit where you don't see that coming out. But then, plan for the unexpected, that maybe your opportunity is going to be to start a business, or somebody asks you to partner, and co-found something. And you want to be ready to do that, to say yes to those types of things.
And more skin in the game is more credible. A rock solid financial foundation, again, will serve you for life. And imagine the stress that relieves if, in fact, it's there. And you're working hard. But entrepreneurs now, you absolutely have a dream, right? But there's a lot that goes into that, and no one financially is willing to take the risk if you haven't already sacrificed something to demonstrate your commitment, right? That you have something to lose. I mean, I started at Universal Media 25 from big media groups, and people thought I had lost my mind. And so my financial planner said, well, what's the 401k? And I said, they don't have one. He went, what? You're in your prime earning years. Like, we can't go there. We cannot make this move. We cannot take this step. I said, no, I really want to bet on myself. He said, okay, here's what you owe me. Until or unless they ever get a 401k, here's the money you owe me as a prime earner, and here's the track you were on, and you better make the commitment to me to pay yourself. And I took that to heart, but I also, as a really good salesman, got a 401k installed at the company because it's free money, right? And it benefited the owners. There was everyone won, right? So why wouldn't we do this? And that's the talent we're going to attract, et cetera, et cetera. So my point is, there's a way to sort of phone that in, and there's a way to live it, right? And everything you do to demonstrate financial stability illustrates that you're living it.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to put our comms PR hat on here for 1 second. When I talk to business students, and Dr. Rahman probably remembers this, and for our purposes, there's two things we want you to do. The first thing, you should understand your digital tattoo. If you don't have Google alerts on yourself, do that today. That's one deliverable today. Go into chat or any of the AI functions, Claude, Perplexity, and Google who is, and put your name in there. And find out, so we Google who is Deeter Gallaher, who is Jessica Whitmire, Google any of us. But find out what the internet is saying about you. Find out what your digital tattoo is. Who's talking about you? You may be totally shocked to find out where your name is appearing, where you have appeared, either in Shippensburg alum things, or not alum, student things, different conversations, internships you have. So keep a running tab of that, and you should know your financial tattoo. So as Jessica and Lee said, understand what your loans are. The next big topic is your credit score. So Jessica, we'll start with you. What is a credit score, and why should we care about that?
So your credit score is a 3-digit number that describes your credit worthiness, right? Will a lender give you money? Will an employer give you a job? That comes into play quite a bit. So establishing credit now and paying attention to it. You can go to transunion.com and get your credit score for free.
I was going to say, where can they go to find that? Aren't there like 3 different credit reportings, or shouldn't they be searching on all 3?
You can get all 3. Actually, my daughter, who is a freshman in college, she had someone applied for a credit card under her Social Security number. So we went into transunion.com, we checked her credit. This was just on Sunday, on Easter Sunday. We went in there, she was able to check her credit score. Luckily, the credit card company blocked the request. She was able to put an alert on that through TransUnion. She was able to see that there was nothing taken out in her name. And she was able to put a freeze on there as well to, protect her. But I think that one was free. The other 2, I believe, are charged. But yeah, you can go in there, you can check that at any time, pay attention to it. Because again, when you graduate, most employers will run a credit check on you. And depending on the industry that you're in, example, I'm in financial services, that matters.
I didn't realize that an employer, maybe Annie, your firm does, or Lee, you were familiar with that. I did not know that employers do that. I guess, would the candidate ever know? We don't know. There's nothing we have to sign off that says.
It's a soft pull, so I'm guessing that there is some sort of disclosure, yes, that you would know, but I'm not certain of the details. But yeah, depending on that industry, specifically financial services, it definitely matters.
So what is so for the student's age, what's considered a good, acceptable credit score?
So the highest, depending on the range that you're looking at, is 850. So anything 700 or above is considered good. As you are maturing and establishing that credit, that score, could start in the 680s and go up from there as you establish that credit. On-time payments are a key contributor to that. Credit utilization, so how much of that line you are using. So if you get a $10,000 credit card, you want to only keep a running balance of 10 to 30% of that. That credit utilization, meaning that open line, the credit bureaus look at that as the more utilization, the higher the risk. So that will impact your credit score negatively.
Okay, Lee, do you have anything to share with that when you're doing the personal finance class?
Yes, also with some of my other classes as well, one of the things that I always gave a discussion post credit for was them to go to Credit Karma and use the app.
Okay.
Because that gives you 2 of the 3 scores on there by using the app, Equifax and TransUnion. And so we would use that, and especially since this generation is all about apps
Right.
and everything else, and it's fairly easy to, like I say, it's very easy to use. It's very, and you can get alerts. You can, it'll give alerts to let you know if something's happened, if you've got some negative output. Experian has their own app, and so I haven't really used that with the classes as much. I can't remember if there's a pay or if there's something else connected with Experian or not. I have the Experian app, but that's because I have a card that gave it to
Right.
me. So.
And I think credit cards are a little bit of a hallucination. You put it there and it's sort of there, and you'll pay it down maybe when you get a chance until you look up and your cup of Starbucks is now $150, right? And so I think that for my son and I to build his credit, we get a co-visa with Members First. And whether he likes it or not, I show him how I look at that every month. And I question things that are on it. And we go through why I'm doing that and that I'm paying attention. And so I just had, again, a mom, who didn't have a lot, be able to say, say to yourself, if you can't buy this, do you really, again, want it or need it? And I just never utilized credit cards in any capacity that ran a balance. And I'm talking, I put myself through Shippensburg. I've worked full-time since I'm 15. I work really hard. And those words resonated to me, and I didn't have a lot of stress, right, with the credit card, because what does the financial establishment wants to push more credit on you because they think, oh, you won't have the discipline to not get to what Jessica's talking about, the credit limit. And it's a lot easier to do than you would think. Like, we're drowning as a country in credit card debt, right? Trillions and trillions of dollars. So my point to that is it's just a fiscal responsibility. And I will say this to you. From the second you're looking at this, you are your own CEO. You're your own CEO of your life. And whether or not you have a currency for the CFO, the chief financial officer, guess what? You're it. The COO, the operating, how you're going to run your life, you're it. You're the CEO. You hire the team because the team is within you. And this finance, which I get hives thinking about, I'm not really like that sort of right brain. I'm not analytical. I'm comms. But the point was I took it seriously because there's not anyone else who will if I'm making those financial responsibilities. So I'm a little bit of tough love with myself in terms of I'm it and I'm my own team. And so I go to experts, and I will tell you, Members First, you could walk into a branch and whatever you wanted to talk about, someone there would talk to you about it. I mean, it's an extraordinary experience to be with Members First. Right downtown across from Sheetz, Members First. And it is, again, illuminating how kind the Members First people are and want to help you. And so I will just say, be true to yourself, be fiscally responsible as your own CFO, and think about that again for the long game, because it's mentally, spiritually, physically the better way to run yourself?
I think there's a challenge now. When I was at SHIP, we used currency. I mean, you actually used dollars. So we knew, okay, I only had $10 for this weekend for pizza or whatever we were doing. Now that you don't see the money, and it's just either deposited or pooled or charged or swiped, I think you don't really feel it leaving you. You don't feel it leaving your checking account or your savings account. So you're not feeling the pain, if you would, from that, like saying, oh, I really shouldn't buy that, But you're going to blink your eye, you'll graduate, and you want to get your first apartment. And of course, you have a new job, so you want to get a whole new wardrobe if you're not remote. And you want to get a car. So all of those things, prepare now for the credit score and your available credit, not using all of that, because everyone's excited, like, wow, I have $20,000 of credit. I'm getting my laptop. I'm going to get, my new outfit for my interview. It's very tempting, and I think discipline is the key. And if you can start it now, even in small steps, you're going to be so far ahead of the game. Lee, do you want to talk about, so if the students start small now, what is the impact? Where time is their friend, actually, now, if they start.
Yes, you can never sacrifice time, because we can't multiply it or whatever. So you're at the prime position. I'm talking to a lot of clients today who are in their late 50s, early 60s, and they're trying to maximize what they've done for retirement, but the fact is that they there's not a whole lot more they can do at that point, where you can do a lot. One of the things I would caution you to is to be aware of the noise. I think, if anything, I've noticed is that the noise in the financial world is just incredible today. And there's some fundamentals you really have to focus on. Number one is managing cash flow. You have to spend less than you make. I mean, it's just...
That's not a very popular principle.
It's just a very
Big
basic
business vitamin,
I know.
right? You cannot spend what you don't have.
I said earlier, paying yourself first, spend less than you make, okay? And then the one thing is you can never be too liquid, okay? And that's not sexy either, okay? Because the money market accounts, okay, all that, but the reality is that you can always, after you build the liquidity, you can always keep moving some of that into retirement and all that. So some people start in retirement without the liquidity part. And while people like me love that because it's compounding and it's early, that other part hurts later, okay? In 2019, I think it's the last time they did this study, Americans lost $5.7 billion in wealth due to premature retirement distributions, which means, and by the way, that number's for the taxes and the penalties. It's not the total amount of money, okay? So the hammering thing there is that they weren't liquid. Nobody does that. Nobody pays that kind of penalty if they're not liquid. So that spending less than you make, that saving, getting liquid, and in our firm we work to get people up to a year's of expenses. Now you don't get there overnight. Right. But you got to start with these pieces. You've got to start slowly, piece it together, and then avoid running with the crowd all the time. I mean, or doing what you don't have to do what everybody's doing. The sad part is, you look back on your life like I'm doing right now, and there's a lot of things I can't remember what I did when I was your age.
We're not going to ask why that is.
And we're not going to go into all of that, but some of it's strictly age.
Yeah.
And so if it's not that important, I know nobody keeps a checkbook anymore, but one of the things that impressed me early was my grandfather. Every time he used that credit card, he went to his checkbook and subtracted it out. So that when the bill came, he was going to pay it in full. He wasn't going to carry a balance. And as a financial advisor, I can tell you, it's very, very difficult for me to help you invest to outrun credit card interest. This just doesn't happen. Not in today's world. You know, you can't take the S&P average 10% a year when you're paying 20%. So it just doesn't work.
Well, and I think Lee brings up a great point. His grandfather had an impact. My mom did and still does have an impact because she's 86 and can't imagine I don't know what I'm making every week or every 2 weeks. Like, she still can't fathom that I don't know that, right? In sales, it ebbs and flows. You have to find someone as early in life as you possibly can who's philosophically aligned with you. You do not need friends that are riverboat gamblers that like, oh, just come out with us and worry about it later. And, oh, if you want it, get it. And I mean, I just had a really long conversation with my financial person, and he's a dear friend now. We're completely aligned in conservative. And I always end by saying, okay, if this were your money, would you do this? Is this something that you feel good about regardless of these risks? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. And then and only then will I agree to that movement in the portfolio. And so I think it's super important to find someone aligned, like my mom or like Lee's grandfather, anyone that's your North Star, to find that reinforces the same goals you have and doesn't always kind of go against the tide.
Another reason to understand, and I'm so glad you're here, like Lee said, this is not the sexiest conversation, but we are heading into the largest transfer of wealth ever in America. So when the boomers, when we're all retired and aging out, you will, and your generation will inherit a ridiculous amount of money. And so even understanding now, thinking ahead, what are the possibilities that you want to do? So maybe you want to start your business, but there's a lot of money decisions will be facing you, in your family, as you get older, as you graduate from college. So even understanding the simple things is incredibly important. So let's go to budgets. Jessica, any tips for students or Gen Z here on budgeting?
Well, Lee mentioned, paying yourself first, knowing what that salary is that you'll be bringing in. Is that variable, right? Are you commission-based, or is it, the same each month or every 2 weeks? And then taking out those key expenses, rent, car payment, deciding how much you can afford to put away into that rainy day fund, and then seeing what, utilities, cell phone bills, et cetera, making that cash flow, whether it be in a spreadsheet, that's how I do it, to, just see where you're at so that you can make those decisions. Can I afford this or can I not? Do I need to, let that go another month, meaning I can't buy this thing that I want because I just don't have the funds right now, and it doesn't make sense to put it on a credit card where I cannot pay it back, right? So always, to the best of your ability, only put things on credit cards that you can make that payment that next month.
And to me, that brings out, because I'm a long game person, in case you haven't noticed that, but what job are you taking? Like, where are you from a budgeting standpoint for the basic necessities? And if you take a job that's not what you need, are you willing to have a second job? And is that possible, or is it something you want to consider? Because you're going to get into that job. What's a job? And it's not enough money. It's never going to be enough money, right? And so from the jump, you're a little bit behind the 8 ball. So figure out what that number is and go find something that's at least going to meet that number or that minimum, with an opportunity to grow from there. And you have to be, again, disciplined, selective. It's very difficult to find a meaningful job, but it's a third of your life and half of your waking hours. We want you to find something you're happy doing. but we also need to provide for ourselves, and there's a budget. And so the more you do that now, what's the range of that? And it's not to say you get an offer and say, hey, this is the minimum I need to be able to accept this job. I would if I could have that. And you would be stunned what the response will be, because you just don't know until you ask. Right?
Negotiating that salary, absolutely do your homework and come in prepared. If you want to go, ask for 20,000 more than what you're offered, and understanding what your value is, understanding what you're bringing to the table that they can't find anywhere else, and how your skills is going to affect the company's bottom line. Because that first salary, sets the tone for your entire retirement. So go as big as you can go. Know your worth, know your value, be confident in your skills, and ask for the most amount of money the company will bear. In my world, for entrepreneurship, you charge the most that the market will bear. I very easily know, well, okay, the market's not going to be able to afford that much for PR or marketing or communications or whatever. There's a very easy litmus test on that. But your financial decisions on your first job affects when, you can listen to Lee and when you can retire. And no one goes into it. I never thought of that in a million years when I negotiated for my first job. But I wish I would have known, and been stronger and more confident to say, hey, I don't think this is the job I could take.
Be your own advocate. I mean, you have to go into every single opportunity thinking, I'm 50% of this. I mean, you may make the ultimate decision, but I have just as much to say, right? And I look at that as a salesman, just in any capacity. I don't think I'm subservient. I don't think I'm less than, right? I'm going in going, wow, you're getting something of huge value if you get me. And if I'm not able to establish that or persuade you, maybe it's a little me, maybe it's a little you. But there's absolutely no reason, especially at most jobs have ranges. Like, what does that even mean? Oh, I'm going top or over that, right? Here's what it's going to. And if it's a price issue, right, that's a race to the bottom, then you don't want me. If you want that, then nope, that's not who we are, and I did not articulate that well or do my job, and I'll be on my way, right? It's not price. There's no winner in price. It's in quality and value, and you have to know that you have that above most other people, if not all people.
Right. Starting an emergency fund. So I think Lee and Jessica, you both talked a little bit about that. The device you're holding in your hands is probably $1,000 for the newest iPhones, which is mind-boggling to me, compared to the rotary phone we grew up with.
But the data plans, like
a laptop, a Mac, whatever. They're all, if you literally wrote it down or you have an app that does your budgeting for you, you would be shocked to say, holy cow, how would I afford all these things that you need to start your life post-graduation? Jessica, what are some tips on them for budgeting like that?
So I think the biggest thing just to start is you're not going to get it all right the first time, right? So trying things, not, going crazy and, being too aggressive, but having grace for yourself of like, okay, I tried this budget this month, didn't quite work out the way I wanted, pay attention to it, make adjustments, make those little tweaks, see how that performs or progresses over time. And then continuing to tweak that as you learn more about the workforce and what your salary is or what unexpected expenses come up. And then utilize those little tweakings, paying attention to them to then, figure out when you can move those funds into an emergency fund. Again, $10, $20, $30 at a time to then build that up to 6 months to a year so that when you do have these big events, you're prepared.
And a lesser expensive car is still going to get you to the same place the same way. And so life, I think, is a ladder. I mean, at least it was for me. I started out on the bottom rung, held on for dear life, and as I could, I climbed the ladder, right? But that's the discipline with which a budget is formulated. Lee talks about it. And so what What can I afford at this job? And you can see how it's almost a puzzle that all comes together, and then the discipline to stick to it. And to Jessica's point, I mean, we're not perfect, we're never perfect, but I think we get a good understanding of how it is to live, freely and without that constant financial stress, and that causes strain in relationships, and it's really sort of a snowball, right? So the more you do up front, like anything, to me, the more rewards it will pay you as you have a plan.
One of the little things that's a trap, for a business owner and on the personal side is any of these subscriptions you sign up for that are all auto-renewed. And for whatever reason, they all, I sign up for the first entry-level Wall Street Journal subscription, which is awesome. Well, that 6 months goes by, and for whatever reason, wherever the auto-renewal reminder went, I didn't see it. So then, we've jumped from the $10 a week to the, it's $100 a month now, and that goes by me. So paying attention to those small things in your email inbox, like where are you signed up that you're auto-renewing all that you think, whether it's an antivirus, any number of digital media subscriptions you have, understanding. I was shocked, and I have called, Wall Street Journal was one of them, and said this, I didn't realize this was auto-renewed, and they took it off on more times than not. They will say, oh, we're sorry that got through. We're going to take off the auto-renew, and then they took it off, actually, my credit card. So, Lee, for any emergency day funds, what do you talk about in your classes that insights for students or, people starting their first job?
Well, I think the number one thing is that if you can make it where it's difficult to get to. In other words, you're not going to go, it's not going to be swipeable so that you can go pizza or whatnot. I think that's number one, making it a little bit difficult to get to. The second thing is that I think from a habit standpoint is really thinking about, and some of this is a very emotional game, by the way. After 36 years of financial planning, dealing with people and their money it's very much an emotional game.
Emotional connection there.
And so, but you can also play with that a little bit. So, one of the biggest downfalls I think for all this is spontaneity. We love to be spontaneous, and we love to go, hey, I had a bad day. Let's go out, or let's do whatever. And so rather than punishing yourself and say, we're not going to do that, okay, maybe what you do is, okay, we're going to allow ourselves 2 times a month to do that, and what's the budget for that? That way, when you go do it, it's already planned. Okay, that way you're not dipping into those, because I think that's the number one problem is dipping into those emergency funds, because making them liquid, that's kind of the trade-off, is they're liquid. You usually can get to them a little easier than you can get to other things. And then going back to taking advantage of whatever's at the employer, okay? There may be other ways to some employers have additional ways for you to put away money that's not in a 401k or whatever, but you can then access it for some reason. Not everybody, but there are places where, so explore that. And then the last thing I would make an echo for being an entrepreneur. I've spent most of my life as an entrepreneur. And so I will tell you that it's a lot better than working for somebody else. And now, on the flip side, you are working for somebody else. You're working for you. And so the problem, if things aren't going well, the problem in the mirror is you, and so forth. But the nice thing about it is that hopefully you'll never work harder for anybody else other than you. And so I would make a pitch for that, because I got to tell you, I've never looked back. There was good times and bad times. I made plenty of mistakes. I'm not sitting here. In fact, many of the things I tell clients and work with people about is from some of the mistakes I made. So I just live to tell about it. And so that's the thing that I would emphasize. But number one, find a way to make a game out of some of it, so that when you are spending money, you're in control. Okay, that's the number one problem I see is people are not in control when they're spending the money, and then they regret it later.
I would just say one thing from a different perspective. I'm the CEO, and everyone's like, oh, you don't have a boss. Every client we have is my boss. I mean, I have 40, right? So would you rather have one or would you rather have 40? And so to Lee's point, all those decisions, you're your own CEO. And so all those decisions you make to all of us, right, that you have to be true to yourself. And what does that mean to you for that bond with yourself? Because your word is your bond, whether it's to yourself or anyone else. And I will say this is the point where I tell my co-host that time is way over. And
what do I say in response?
And it's our show. We can go as long as we like. But I do want to get to questions. And get really what matters to you, because you're kind enough again to commit your time to this, because it's one of the most important pillars you will establish before you are a college graduate.
And let me quickly echo Lee. The whole end game here is financial independence. That's truly freedom. You know, if you can get to a spot in your career where you are earning more than you're spending, and none of us want deprivation. You know, I love a 4-star dinner like the rest of them. But if you can, and you can absolutely set your goal, and you can buy a house, and you can have a family, but understanding that what you're working toward is an investment, you know, of your hard-earned money, and being able to make decisions financially independent. That is like really the ultimate freedom. So we would love to hear any of your questions, some of your experiences, what worked for you as a young person, what didn't work. When we have some of our friends in the audience too. So.
What is your
Kelly,
fear? What are you worried about? What can we just say, sort of crawl, walk, run if it were us, right? Like, this entire podcast was Ann and I's idea to pay it forward. I just felt like at that point women didn't help women enough. And I'm thinking, why is that? Like, we can talk about helping women, or we can actually do something to help women. And here we are 5+ years later on a journey with this podcast we could have never imagined. But we're doing this solely to help people. You know, we both have big day jobs, right? But it's important enough for us to want to help you and anyone that we can in the significant body of life and work that we've achieved.
Yeah. Any questions or comments?
Oh, she gonna get
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to ask a question. And we're going to hope it's like everyone goes, I got a question.
On. I don't know if you guys can hear me all
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Hi, I am Caroline Cooper. I am a senior CJM student, so I am also in ComJourn. I'm
Great.
studying
Yay,
public relations.
Caroline, yes.
And I had Professor Fortenberry for personal finance last semester, so I've tried navigate all of this personal finance stuff, especially ahead of graduation. And I have sort of a specific question. So I have a potential job lined up that would be financially secure, and it would help me start budgeting early on in life and be able to save ahead of time, but it isn't necessarily in the field that I'm passionate about. Do you have any tips or pointers on how to navigate whether or not I should pursue it in that field if I do want that stability as I'm going into my early professional life, or should I pursue something more that I'm passionate about?
Why did you pursue this to begin with if it wasn't in your field, et cetera, et cetera? So what was attractive about it?
That's a good question. So it was a follow-up for the internship that I did over the summer, and it was a leadership internship. So I was able to learn a lot of skills, everything from supply chain management to navigating leadership in store teams. So I was working in a large retail store, so I got to learn communication in the workplace as well as outside of the workplace, and navigating a lot of interpersonal skills, which I did think was very, very important, and I did really appreciate that. But I'm not sure if that's something that I necessarily want to pursue professionally.
What excites you about it, thinking about it?
Financial security.
Well, that's a good reason. Sometimes those situations, especially your first job out of college, I can honestly say I didn't really know what I was passionate about at that point. I didn't have any idea about entrepreneurship. But if it's a job that you can learn from and that you're curious about and you can bring value, and the salary is commensurate with what, would give you a really strong footing, that gives you financial freedom to grow and pursue the next position. That doesn't mean you're staying there for 10 years, maybe only 1 year. But where you start, again, is so important. As long as you're, excited to wake up every day and go to work. And
I'm not sold on that, right? And here's the thing for me. I don't think anyone should be in a job less than 2 years. And if you are, you shouldn't have taken it. Because there has to be a stability. Loyalty is extraordinarily important to me, so I want people that see a career ladder
Yes.
coming here. And oh, by the way, nobody's going to hand that to you. And in an entrepreneurial company, privately owned by a family, you can create your way, but no one's going to sit here and say, this is a corporation and here are the next job things to get more money. So if you can see a pivot to what you are passionate about, because it's not going to be the money. You're going to hate it. And again, it's half your waking hours.
Yep.
Right? And I want you to have a fire in your heart and passion and be really thrilled and it's work. So some days it just stinks, right? But the bottom line is maybe there's that joy for you, but it's sort of like, well, it's good money to start, but then be in it 2 years and figure out already before you go in it what's next.
Exactly.
That would be my.
And you might learn to be passionate about. I've had,
that's
situations
true.
where I went into, with client pitches and I thought, this is a good story. I'm not sure, but as we dug deeper, I thought, wow, this is a really good story. So I ended up learning, through curiosity and investing the time, and I thought, wow, this is far better and deeper than I thought that it was. So that may be the situation, but spend some time exploring that, because that's a difficult choice,
And I think relationships matter too. You don't know yet what relationships you may develop at,
Right.
in this job that could lead to something else. Like, the reason I'm back at Members First is because of relationships. I was an intern when I was at Shippensburg, and now I came back, right? So all relationship based.
Can't
People
start a
make it.
fire without a spark. Go light it up.
So now you have to connect on LinkedIn with us so we hear the rest of the story.
I'm connected with you guys.
good.
Yep.
I want to watch that journey. I think you were at the last one.
Oh,
I think
yeah, the
Caroline
con-
was
yes.
at the
I
last
was,
one.
yes, I
Yeah.
covered
Yeah.
it for this week.
God bless you.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Good.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody
Let's
else
get
have a question?
Up there. Let's. Make me bring a microphone up there.
Oh, good.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Dante Pagano. I'm actually a junior. I'm in Barry's class right now for retirement planning. I just have a question. What do you think you worried about too much that you didn't feel like you need to worry about when you were our age? Like something that you felt like you focused a lot of time on that you could have just like brushed off your shoulder and you're like, why was I even thinking about that? Why was I stressing about that?
That's a
It's
good
a
question.
really good. That's a younger self question.
I would have taken more risks.
Me
I-
too.
I wanted to wait until I absolutely knew everything before I, jumped in the deep end, especially starting a business. I would have done it much sooner.
And I would say for me, and I still struggle with it a little bit, I can't get there fast enough. And where is there? Like at some point you have to, as Ann says, constantly be where your feet are. And my husband will say, honey, look at this life you have. Do you enjoy it, right, as much as you should? And I think when I was your age and a lot of your age, I thought, oh, there's this whole world to conquer. And there's part of me that still feels that way, especially when it comes to meeting people. But I would sort of just take a deeper breath because that's stressful. Like you become, I'll speak for me, I became manic. Like I couldn't work enough. I would work 12 hours, I would grab something to eat, and I'd go back to work. Because it was a sales job, right? And so I think the more I experienced that, the more it became consuming. And I just worked, and I would have done things a little bit differently looking back.
And sometimes don't listen to everybody else. Sometimes just listen to your gut or your heart. Like if it's something you feel, so I started my business at age 40. I didn't poll 100 people. because, they would have said, Ann, what are you doing? You've got 3 kids. Is this really? You're going to the bank. You're asking for a loan. Like Lee said, it was the best thing I ever did. This is year 26. So I would have done it sooner. I didn't know the right people at that time. I didn't have enough confidence to jump in the deep end, and you sink or you swim, and which was great for me. I didn't want any more bosses. So
She's in the
you know.
badass club too. She's really, really good, really accomplished, and
But-
a role model for me for sure.
No, you're sweet. That's a great question.
Oh, it is.
Good.
Professor, I'd like to hear from you.
So, well, one thing I'll echo is that you're always going to regret the shots you didn't take. And that's not always at work. Sometimes it's in those moments where you could have had something, family, something that's never comes your way again.
Right.
And one of those shots for me was being able to go to the Masters golf tournament, and I didn't take it. And this was 37 years ago now. And I didn't really realize that might have been my only best shot. And I'm passionate about golf, and I like watching that tournament. Augusta is a beautiful place. Now, for some people, it's something else. And I there's some of those that I had, and that's the thing that I would tell myself if I were rewinding the clock is it's all right. You don't have. There's a couple things you didn't have to worry about as much, and so forth. You always work hard. I mean, if you're going to work hard, but don't sacrifice it at the altar to the point that you don't take some of those shots because you'll
point.
Do that. And the other thing is that I would have probably done something that I tell people to do all the time is what do you really want? Okay, they've coined the term bucket list and all that kind of stuff, but what do you really want? In life, and I didn't do that. I didn't know to do that at that age. And I certainly didn't think about it. And some of it was scripted for me in the beginning because I was on an ROTC scholarship and I went to serve an active duty tour. But I'm very thankful for that because that's how I met a mentor that ultimately led me to the entrepreneurial career I've enjoyed for the last 36 years. So I can't. But also too, I didn't. It took me a while to figure out why, what I really want, and so because. To me, that's probably the most important thing today is that I'm sitting here holding a picture of my 2 grandkids because Pop is my favorite title now, and so
That's awesome.
And those are the 2 things that I would focus on: is what do you really want, not just professionally but personally, and how does that blend in so you can enjoy and that'll help you find what you want to do, and then you'll never work a day in your life, and then. When you get the chance, take the shot.
Lee brings up an interesting point. A few weeks ago, my son, 21, said, my friend told me in the gym, if you're going to be in the gym and you're working out, it's as easy to work out all the way as it is to work out half the way. The time is the same. Why would you cheat, yourself? And so to Lee's point, I've just always worked really hard. And I think that has served me as well as anything, is to work hard.
Jessica?
Yeah, I would say, I was constantly looking at the next thing, like checking those things off the list, and very concerned about it, from a young age after graduation. So definitely like slowing down a little bit in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I worked very hard. I was in public accounting for 13 years, and that's the reason then I was offered the position at Members First after interning. And so, yeah, work hard, and then it will pay back.
Good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Anyone else? Oh, good.
See, break that seal and get going.
Hi, I'm Layla Deal, and I'm technically a sophomore, but I'm a first-year student, and that kind of applies to my question. So last year, I was in high school, and I served on like an executive board for Future Business Leaders of America, if you've heard of that
Nice.
organization.
Sure.
And we did a partner with Fidelity Youth and the app Acorns, which are both youth investment apps. Do you think those are something that are beneficial to use when you are so young? I believe the age you can start is about 13. Or do you think that's something you need to do like kind of on your own or with just like a parental figure?
I'll defer to the financial experts here.
Well, I think one thing, you're never too young to start saving money.
Right.
And my emphasis too is on saving money. Because savings rates always trump rates of return. People always, you never hear anybody talk about savings rate on TV. They always talk about rate of return, right? But so first of all, I think you're never too young to start. And then second, be careful, solicit advice, but always be careful. And I think going back to something was said earlier, you got to ultimately trust your gut on the advice. But always remember too that if you've got a good liquid fund as well, nobody takes money out of a down market on purpose. They do it because they have to. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to get the rate of return that you're looking for in whatever investment it is, you have to have that other side there, because that always protects you from taking money out of a down market. And that's the number one killer.
Jessica?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Saving as early as possible, in whatever method you feel is easy for you, right? There's many different apps out there that can do very similar things. So finding one that works for you, where it's easy and you understand it, and you make sure like you fully understand like all the ramifications, and yeah, definitely save as early as possible.
Good.
You go, girl.
Thank you.
Were you one of the ones that said entrepreneurship, too? No, I wasn't. No. Oh, good. Well, you could start your own marketing firm. That's it. Good. Anybody else? Oh, good.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Dominic Visa. I'm a sophomore financial planning major.
Oh.
So my question to you guys is, you said earlier how our generation is going to reap the benefit of the largest wealth transfer in history.
Yes.
So what can we do now to start kind of obtaining that wealth?
Good. Starting out for planning to make decisions about that?
Yeah.
Good. Well, step one was coming here, so that's awesome. You did step one. And I think just educating. So whether that's on apps, whether that's, going to Members First page, talking to Lee, doing your own research. I mean, from the Dave Ramsey's, there's a million, social media stories out there, but educating yourself on preparing for that. So, when that comes, when families inherit generational wealth, you should have already thought about who would an advisor be? Who would be your very rarely are you going to, take $500,000, $2 million and know exactly what you're going to do with that. But those decisions are super important, and you should be thinking now, like if you're, say your grandparents, have a trust for you, and I think a lot of people are surprised at the family money sitting in the market, that people are shocked. You can't tell by the cars people drive or the houses they live in. Actually, sometimes it's quite the opposite. The biggest houses are they're house rich and cash poor. But just educating yourself on what is the market and because I had to do that, and I didn't want to ask a stupid question in front of people. So I just did a lot of my own research and found out what does an investment advisor do, and is that worth me pursuing that? Who would I go to? Who would I trust? Like Lee said, I think money is incredibly emotional. There's an emotional connection to that. When you go, say you open a business line for your business or for a home, everything is out there about you. I mean, there's nothing to hide if it's the credit score. That tells you how trustworthy you are. Do you pay your bills on time? You can hide that from everybody, but the credit unions and the banks. So there's so much information out there. Just step one would be, educating yourself now. You are not too young now to figure out, if you had X amount of dollars, what would be the top 3 things you should do with that?
Yeah, and finding someone that you trust. Members First has many different investment reps, and, different personalities mesh better with, certain people. So like finding someone that works for you, finding that trusted advisor, and then you can start planning.
Yeah.
Good luck inheriting that kind of cash. That's a lot of money.
So, I think it's important too to have a conversation with your parents. Okay, this is hopefully an opportunity for both of you to learn, because sometimes those conversations are hard. Okay, and especially if your parents are private, and I still have those difficult conversations with my father today, and I'm his advisor.
So you do know everything about him.
and there's times where he didn't want to talk about certain things, or he doesn't want to do, or he thinks he doesn't need to do something. And I remember a conversation like that a couple of years ago when I was trying to get him to revise and update his wills because they were 40 plus years old. And he's in Georgia, and Georgia law had changed, and I had to kind of challenge him a little bit. And I know that's hard at your age, but if you can get your parents to talk about it a little bit, so y'all can have some open, honest conversation. Because the other thing too is the rules are not in your favor. Okay, or in the next generation's favor. Okay, because of the amount we talk about this wealth transfer, but a lot of that money is in money that's going to be distributed based on the Secure Act 2.0. And that means a lot of taxes are going to be paid. And so now's the time to have these conversations so we can have intelligent conversations and figure out, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want to pay a lot of tax, or do we want to do this? And knowing that part of it as well. So, but it's also, I think, an opportunity for your parents to teach you something as well. See, so I think there's an opportunity on both sides to have that conversation.
Hey, thank you so much.
Good, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Any other questions, comments? You have your first 10,000 saved already?
Shout out to the Palmers up there.
I know it. Thank you, guys.
See you. Biggest fans.
Thank you.
Right back at you.
Do you have any wisdom you want to share with the students? You're a different generation than
Kelly Palmer, Dynamo.
Yes.
Hi, thank you guys for doing this.
And you're in the MBA program here.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Aman. Yes, go Ship. I would just say a lesson that I recently learned. I just took a few different turns in my career, unexpected turns, and I would say that the biggest takeaway and the biggest lesson that I learned was if you don't ask, the answer's always no. You can ask for a promotion. You can ask for, hey, I'm interested in XYZ. XYZ in my role. I'm interested in added scope, added responsibility. And I have found that if you do work hard and you show up, most of the time your employer is willing to give that to you. It just happened to me. So I just had a great experience. I'm in a new role right now, but I asked for it. I raised my hand and I said, hey, I'm ready for more. I asked for it. And I think the worst case scenario, you walk away and guess what? You didn't have that role before. So there's really nothing to lose. So I say raise your hand and ask for what you want, and you can make things your own.
That's awesome.
Look up the Kelly Palmer episode on Grit and Gravitas. She was and is extraordinary.
You're great. And Brett, you just started a new career. So you want to share what that is with us?
Like it or not?
Sorry, I just called you out.
No, I jumped through different careers in my life, and most recently I made a switch to commercial real estate. Prior to all that, I was in law enforcement and had a family and got to where I am now. But, it's never too late to change, and you're not, stuck where you're at. There's always somewhere to go.
It's never too late to be what you might have been.
Yeah. No, that was great. Any other? Oh, good.
Oh, good.
I feel like we should have had prizes for the people asking questions.
now that whole Rose asked.
I know.
something.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, My name's Safir. I'm a senior. I'm part of the financial planning program.
Oh, good.
You did catch my attention when you mentioned like you have your first 10,000. So as like a young person, obviously there investments like stocks and well crypto. I'm a little hazy about that. So I was gonna ask if hypothetically you achieved your first 10,000. As a young person, how would you, I guess, reinvest that or allocate that?
Good.
I would put it in a money market so that it's still liquid, but it's earning a higher rate than a savings account.
I think I would echo that, but with the idea that as I started to increase it, then I could start moving,
Yes.
say, 1,000. So, for example, so we get the 10,000 in the money market, but then we keep saving money. So then the next 1,000 we start moving over, and then you can start thinking about some other things, whether it's exchange traded funds or mutual funds or other things to start investing in. And obviously, if you're going to do it yourself, you're going to have to do good research and so forth. Or if you can build a relationship with a good advisor, then they can advise you with that as well, and so forth. But that's what I would start thinking about. I always like to get liquid, just like Jessica said. But then after that, we can start. Okay, how do we start siphoning off? We keep it here, or keep it at a certain level, but make sure that as we keep building it, then I can start moving it over, because you can always move it over.
We probably should have had a line that said, "This is not financial advice." We'll rewind the podcast and put that on the bottom there, that this is, for conversation only. But that's a great question, because that's going to be here before you know it. You're going to have that 10,000. And I think even starting, like we said, we'll let Jessica wrap us up with the 5 things that we want you to do, we would hope you would do before you graduate. But knowing, if you just started with $10 a month and set it in motion and went on with your life and then revisited that 5 years from now, I think that would just be an incredible way to start, where you're not going to really feel that pain, but you start that discipline. And then with each job, you get to Kelly and Brett's stage, and now you're putting, 1,000 a month or 300 a month or whatever. And that's financial independence. That just sets your future is going to be so bright with that side of the investments taken care of. Jessica, do you want to really give us
us
the
up,
whole?
Sure, yeah. So we talked about a lot of this already, but know your student loans, right? Where are you going to pay? How much are you going to pay? Set up that automatic payment. Building and protecting your credit. Figure out your credit score. Pay attention to it. Set up alerts so that if identity theft is everywhere, right? So paying attention to that, knowing what impacts your credit score. So paying on time is the biggest thing. Setting up those automatic payments and that utilization. Those are the 3 key things there. Creating that budget and setting up that emergency fund. And then finally, knowing your information. Where is your money? What is your social security number? What insurance do you have? All of, passwords, important documents, having that, because your parents aren't going to be in charge of that much longer, right? And can't, after you're 18 years old, really can't do anything to help you with that. So other than advice, but when it's, you and the credit card company, it's you talking to the credit card company. It's not them. I experienced that with my daughter a couple weeks ago, right? And that's hard for parents, too, to figure out, especially, the firstborn. But yeah, knowing that information, having it, paying attention to it.
This was awesome. Thank you
Thank you so much. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks, Dr. Rahman. Oh, yeah, you can ask a question. Or we might require you to give advice, not a question.
One of the questions, the reason it is because I'm seeing it all over the United States and online. It's gambling.
Oh.
And futures markets and crypto, whatever it is not. And there's a lot of studies been done. A lot of students, campus students, are spending a lot of money into that online gambling and things like that. So I think I would like to hear all of your advice on the students, how to avoid that and how to surpass that and kind of a focus on savings rather than on that aspects of it.
Lady, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Well, I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was when I lost $10 in junior high school betting on the college bowl games, and because I didn't have it, and I wound up having to use my lunch money for like 10 weeks to pay off my debt to the guy that I lost to, because I never really gambled again after that, and so I would. If you're going to gamble, make sure that that's just it. It's extra money that you're assuming that you're going to don't need, and it's after all the other things are paid. And but if I were to tell you the tragedy about talking about gambling is that while people win, and you hear about people winning. Mm-hmm. All the stories I know about are the people that lost. There's a lot more of them. and so I would encourage you to take that. If you're going to bet, do like Annie. Bet on yourself. Mm-hmm. Go into business. Mm-hmm. Do something else like that. Don't because so much of this stuff is rigged. And like I say, the faces that parade through my head when I think about gambling, I think about my uncle. It's all the losers. And my uncle was doing it back in the day before we had all the. I mean, I can only imagine what he'd be like now with DraftKings and everything else, because he was betting with real bookies back in the day. We're talking 40 plus 50 years ago now, and driving my aunt absolutely nuts. And so. Like I say, I would bet on yourself. Do that. Take your money that you would put in DraftKings, or if you're going to do something, do like I did and do the brackets on ESPN where I didn't have to put any money in, because guess what? I didn't. I mean, I had a couple brackets do okay, but nothing was at the top. So,
I think, again, the sum total of everything we've discussed tonight, my feeling on that is it is a sucker's bet. And I work so hard for the money I make. There is absolutely no way I'm going to gamble that and risk that. Like, I never understood that, right? And so I think, but my mom's like, oh, it's like now the jackpots are just like 500, like crazy amounts. Just do $1. We have to go get my lottery tickets. I said, somebody winning $1 billion doesn't need my dollar, because that's what I'm doing. I'm like contributing to their pot. So I just always felt it was so difficult to make it, and then the sacrifices and the financial planning and the budgets and the just all of that. And so for what am I going to basically just give up on that and throw it out the window, right? So again, back to the discipline, and I got absolutely nothing out of that. I'd rather go bowling, to be perfectly honest, right? I could think of a million things I'd rather do that I would have such a good time, right? So again, I think it's just your perspective and what's important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just not getting sucked in. It can be exciting, but you will lose. Eventually, you will lose.
I think if you saw the money that you were betting in cash, would you take $100 cash from Members First and throw it out your car window as you're driving? No, you wouldn't do that. So. Envisioning what that is. But here's where I would say choose your friends wisely. If don't spend a lot of time with people who spend a lot of time in those things, because sooner or later, it will, you'll become part of that group, and you'll think, oh, I'm just going to go with them one time. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, oh my word, it's a 24-hour, I was there for a conference and just was aghast at the amount of money spent there, just thrown away, in my opinion. But again, I would go back, make your decisions earlier, and figure out who your group of influence is, and just make sure they're positive, having a positive influence on you. Because I've not met gamblers, or anyone playing the lottery or whatever that said, "Oh, I wish I would have even spent more money. I wish I would have done that." So.
It's too good to be true, it is. There's just some things that will always be true.
Good. Hey, thank you so much for all of you for joining us. We're going to tell everyone when this episode airs, and we're excited. We hope it benefits a lot more students your age. So thank you so much. Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.